In Boston Harbor, there is a warship that should not still exist. She was built from wood in the 18th century, launched when George Washington was still president, and designed for a navy that was barely beginning to prove it belonged on the world stage. Yet USS Constitution is still afloat, still commissioned, and still crewed by active-duty sailors of the United States Navy. Most historic ships survive as silent exhibits, frozen in place as monuments to a vanished age. Constitution is different. She is a museum, a symbol, and technically still a serving warship. Her story is not just about naval battles. It is about how a young republic tried to defend its trade, project power, and create a national identity at sea. To understand why this ship matters, we have to go back to a time when the United States had independence, but not yet the naval strength to protect it. After the American Revolution, the United States faced a difficult problem. Its merchants depended on ocean trade, but its government had only limited ability to protect them. American ships crossed the Atlantic, entered the Mediterranean, and carried goods through waters where stronger powers and private raiders could threaten them. The new country could not rely forever on diplomacy or luck. In 1794, Congress passed the Naval Act, authorizing the construction of 6 frigates. These were not meant to be ordinary ships. They were intended to give the young nation a credible fighting force without trying to match the huge battle fleets of Britain or France. USS Constitution was one of those original frigates. Her very name, chosen from a list submitted to President Washington, connected the ship to the new political order itself. She was not just a weapon. She was a floating declaration that the United States intended to survive on its own terms. The design of Constitution reflected a smart compromise. The United States could not afford to build a massive navy of ships of the line, the giant battleships of the sailing era. Instead, naval designer Joshua Humphreys proposed frigates that were larger, stronger, and more heavily armed than many standard frigates of the day. The idea was simple but effective. These ships should be powerful enough to defeat vessels of similar class, yet fast enough to escape ships too large to fight. Constitution embodied that strategy. Built at Edmund Hart's shipyard in Boston's North End, she had a wooden hull, 3 masts, and the heavy construction needed for long voyages and hard combat. Her strength would later become legendary, but it was not an accident. She was built to give a small navy an outsized advantage, one battle at a time. Constitution's first missions were not glorious set-piece battles. They were the practical work of protecting American commerce. During the quasi-war with France, an undeclared naval conflict in the late 1790s, American merchant ships needed escorts and protection from capture. For a young country, this mattered deeply. Trade was revenue, influence, and survival. If American ships could be seized at will, independence meant far less in practice. Constitution later served in the First Barbary War, when the United States confronted North African states whose corsairs threatened shipping in the Mediterranean. These early missions helped define what the Navy was for, not conquest for its own sake, but the defense of American interests far from home. Constitution became part of the answer to a basic national question: could the United States protect its citizens and commerce beyond its own coastline? The moment that made Constitution famous came during the War of 1812. The United States went to war with Britain, the world's dominant naval power, and the odds at sea seemed brutally unequal. Britain had a vast fleet, global experience, and a long tradition of naval warfare. The United States had a much smaller force. But individual American frigates could still create dramatic victories, and Constitution became the most famous example. In August 1812, she fought HMS Guerriere, a British frigate. During the battle, British cannonballs were said to bounce off Constitution's strong wooden sides, leading sailors to cry that her sides were made of iron. That moment gave her the nickname Old Ironsides. Whether the phrase was spontaneous legend or later polished memory, it captured something real. The ship seemed almost impossible to break. The victory over Guerriere mattered far beyond the damage done to one British ship. It arrived at a time when the United States badly needed good news. On land, the war had been difficult and embarrassing in places. At sea, however, Constitution's success showed that American ships and crews could defeat British warships in direct combat. This did not mean the United States had naval superiority overall. Britain still commanded enormous maritime power. But symbols matter in wartime, and Old Ironsides became a powerful one. The battle gave Americans a story of competence, courage, and resilience. It suggested that the young republic was not simply surviving in the shadow of older empires. It could strike back, win, and create legends of its own. Constitution's War of 1812 record did not end with Guerriere. She went on to capture or defeat several British vessels, including HMS Java, Pictou, Cyane, and Levant. Each action added to her reputation, but the larger significance was strategic and psychological. A single frigate could not decide the whole war, yet successful cruises disrupted enemy shipping, boosted morale, and forced opponents to respect American seamanship. Constitution also captured numerous merchantmen, reminding Britain that American naval power could create costs even when outnumbered. Her victories helped build the mythology of the early Navy: fast ships, disciplined crews, and commanders willing to take bold action. The ship became a national celebrity, not because she won one lucky fight, but because she repeatedly proved that her design, crew, and mission worked under pressure. After the War of 1812, Constitution did not simply retire into memory. She continued serving as a flagship in the Mediterranean and African squadrons, showing the American flag in distant waters. This role was important because naval presence was a form of diplomacy. A warship could protect commerce, reassure allies, discourage threats, and represent national authority without firing a shot. In the 1840s, Constitution sailed around the world, demonstrating that the United States was increasingly connected to global routes and interests. Her career stretched across eras, from the fragile early republic, through expanding trade, into a period when American influence was becoming more visible abroad. She had started as part of a small defensive experiment, but by mid-century she was also a symbol of a country looking outward. Like many old warships, Constitution repeatedly faced a less dramatic enemy than cannon fire: obsolescence. Naval technology changed. Steam power, iron hulls, and modern artillery transformed warfare at sea. A wooden sailing frigate that had once been advanced became outdated. Ships that are obsolete often end up scrapped, no matter how famous they once were. But Constitution had something most ships did not: public affection. Her nickname, her wartime victories, and her place in national memory helped save her more than once. Americans saw her not merely as old equipment, but as a physical link to the country's early struggles. The repeated campaigns to preserve her show how historical memory can become a form of protection. Old Ironsides survived because people decided she still had work to do as a symbol. During the American Civil War, Constitution served in a very different role, as a training ship for the United States Naval Academy. This was a fitting second life. Instead of fighting enemy frigates, she helped educate future officers. The same decks that had carried sailors into combat now became part of the Navy's institutional memory. Later, she carried American artwork and industrial displays to the Paris Exposition of 1878, representing the country in a cultural and technological setting rather than a battlefield. These chapters are easy to overlook, but they show why Constitution's story is broader than war. She adapted as the nation changed. Her mission shifted from combat to training, representation, and education, while her symbolic value continued to grow. By 1881, Constitution was retired from active service, and in 1907 she was designated a museum ship. But even that did not make her passive. In 1934, after restoration, she completed a remarkable 3-year national tour, visiting 90 ports. Imagine the effect of that journey. People who knew Old Ironsides only from schoolbooks, poems, or patriotic stories could see the real ship in person. The tour turned preservation into public experience. It helped transform Constitution from a Boston landmark into a national one. Later, in 1997, she sailed under her own power for her 200th birthday. In 2012, she sailed again to commemorate the 200th anniversary of her victory over Guerriere. These moments were carefully staged, but they were not empty ceremonies. They proved that the ship remained alive in a way few artifacts ever do. Today, USS Constitution is usually berthed at Pier 1 of the former Charlestown Navy Yard, near the end of Boston's Freedom Trail. Visitors can tour her for free, but she is not staffed like an ordinary museum attraction. Her crew consists of active-duty Navy officers and sailors, and assignment to the ship is considered special duty. Their mission is educational, to help the public understand the Navy's role in war and peace through ceremonies, demonstrations, outreach, and daily interaction with visitors. That mission makes Constitution a bridge between past and present. She connects wooden hulls and sail power to modern naval service, and she reminds visitors that institutions are built through memory as well as technology. The reason USS Constitution still matters is not only that she is old. Many things are old. What makes her extraordinary is continuity. She was born from the United States' need to defend itself at sea. She fought in conflicts that shaped American confidence. She survived technological change, political neglect, and the practical logic of scrapping obsolete ships. She became a training platform, a diplomatic symbol, a museum, and still remains a commissioned warship. Old Ironsides endures because she carries several stories at once: engineering ambition, wartime courage, public memory, and national identity. In a world where most military machines are discarded when they become outdated, Constitution shows that some vessels outlive their original purpose. They become witnesses. And this one is still afloat. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.